Welcome to my third video in my Relationships in Encanto series, where I use the movie Encanto to teach some relationship principles that I teach from my high school relationships class. If you want to see my first two videos, then make sure you check out my channel. So let's take a closer look at the Madrigal family. Okay, we're going to take a little bit of a different focus on their family than just the gifts that they have. Now, when a family goes under stress, typically when it's centered around one person, everyone starts to shift into these other roles to try and balance everything out, actually. So families under stress, oftentimes if there's like one source of the stress from one person in the family, you might have maybe an addict or an alcoholic or somebody who's just really controlling or who's angry all the time. If that's under stress, then what everybody does is they shift into a role to try and balance out the system. Now, nobody wants to confront the problem directly because that will cause a blow up.
What are you talking about? Look at our home. Look at your
And so what they do is they try and keep things stable by shifting into a role that balances things out. Like for instance, you might have one person where the problem is centered on, and then you have another person who might be like the enabler, who kind of enables the person and shields them from any bad consequences that happen. You might have one of the children, especially one of the older children, taking on the role of the hero and tries to be perfect and tries to take care of everything and keep the family together so that things can keep going. Then you might have another child who is like the scapegoat, who maybe they have some problems, and so everybody blames all of the family problems on them, and so everybody kind of blames all the family problems on that person. Then you've got another person who might be like the mascot. They're like the funny kid who makes all the jokes and relieves some of the tension that happens. And then you have another kid who kind of flies under the radar, called the lost child. Basically just stays under the radar while everybody else is taking care of all these issues here. So did everybody get that?
Great. I think I got it, but just in case, tell me the whole thing again. I wasn't listening.
Okay, let's go through it one more time with each person in the family here.
Okay. So many kids in our house, so let's turn the sound up. You know why? I think it's time for a grandkid roundup.
The hero tries to keep the family together by being perfect. This is emphasized pretty closely with Isabella.
Did someone say flowers?
Our angel.
Please don't clap.
Thank you.
Oh, it's nothing.
And Luisa.
That'll never stop. Whoa.
Those in the hero role on the outside oftentimes look like they're doing perfect, they look like they're doing great, but on the inside are oftentimes suffering from all kinds of self-doubt, anxiety, sometimes depression, and oftentimes feel like that they're not good people at all.
I'm a loser.
I'm lame compared. Like I fought a Russian guy in a rhinoceros machine.
Can we rewind it back to the I'm lame part? Because you are not.
No, thanks. No, yeah, I appreciate that. I'm not saying I'm lame.
But
I'm
it's
just
just
saying
the
like
self-talk. Maybe we should, you know,
listen.
because you're amazing.
Then we've got the mascot, which is kind of the comic relief. They draw stress away from things by trying to be funny. This is really emphasized in the movie with Camilo.
Vamos. Okay, vamos. All right, I'm done. Camilo, stop pretending you're Dolores so you can have seconds.
worth the shot.
Mirabel.
Isabella,
your boyfriend's here.
You are a sad, strange little man.
The lost child is kind of the forgotten one who kind of flies under the radar while everybody else is dealing with the stress. That would be Dolores in this case. As you can see, she kind of flies under the radar most of the time.
The rats talking in the walls. Oh, and Luisa. I heard her eye twitching all night.
his
He
way.
told me that the man of my dreams would be just out of reach, betrothed to another.
The scapegoat, they may have problem behaviors, or they might just get blamed for problem behaviors. But in any case, they get blamed for all the family problems. This would be like Bruno.
Something terrible, and then crack, boom, it would happen.
We don't talk about Bruno.
What if you didn't understand what he saw?
Then you better figure it out because it was coming for you.
And Mirabel.
Everything was perfect. Abuela was happy. The family was happy. You want to be a better sister? Apologize. apologize for ruining my life.
The victim is the person with the problem behavior. In this case, it would be Abuela. She's controlling and has perfectionistic tendencies.
Because of me.
Enabler protects a person with behavior, kind of shields them from any negative side effects. Actually, in this movie, I don't feel like that is really well defined. So if you have any ideas on who you think the enabler is, then go ahead and put them in the comments. So let's go back and talk about the scapegoats for a little bit. Why is it that they get blamed for so many problems? Well, in the case of Bruno and Mirabel, Bruno always tells them things that they don't want to hear about the future, things that are not perfect. But since the family is so set on perfectionism, they prefer to see him as the cause of the problems. Mirabel, not having a gift, is the living embodiment of not being perfect, not having the magic, and so she gets set aside and blamed for everything also.
And I'm not in the way. You are.
Now also, you might find that their depiction of Bruno as the scapegoat is much worse than he is actually in person. They see him as this monster, as they show in the song, but in person, he is quite a bit different, as we can see in some of these scenes here.
All the patching's done by Hernando.
Who is Hernando?
I'm Hernando, and I'm scared of nothing.
Yeah, my gift wasn't helping the family, but I love my family, you know? I just don't know how to...
Why is it that things are so different from their perception and reality? Well, this has a lot to do with our own biases as well, as we've talked about earlier. When you have decided that you don't like somebody, when you've decided that they're not a good person, then what happens is a bias called confirmation bias starts to kick in. You start to see only certain traits about them. So let's say that there's a person here and everybody has got positive traits and negative traits. However, once you have decided that somebody's a bad person, then you start ignoring their positive traits and you start focusing only on their negative traits. You'll even exaggerate and focus on those while you ignore or reinterpret anything that's positive. So the fact that Bruno can see the future is amazing.
I don't think you make bad things happen. Sometimes family weirdos just get a bad rap.
But they have reinterpreted that as being negative. So they're exaggerating focus. That's why you see this monster Bruno, when the reality of Bruno is something that's far more subtle and even positive, that he has a great love for the family, great love for everything. As Mirabel says, he just kind of gets a bad rap. So the question you have to ask yourself is there somebody that you hate? Because you're probably not seeing the whole picture.
It is Buzz! Woody was telling the truth!
What have we done?
Great, now I have guilt.
You're probably only seeing their negative traits, you're probably exaggerating those, and so that actually is going to go against you being able to see them entirely. But what about family roles? Is there one of these roles that you tend to identify with in your family? Have you seen these roles in other people's families? When there is stress in the family, it's not uncommon for people to move into one of these roles. It's also important to realize that you don't have to be in that role. You can actually move out of it and you can find yourself a different person. Contento en mi paraíso y revelando